Yo, what is up, Bitcoiners? Welcome back to the Build a Mind podcast. I hope you guys are stacking the dip right now. Let's see, we're looking at about $80,000 right now. Bitcoin got into about 78,000. I got to tell you guys, I have nothing left on the sidelines. I've sold my last chair. I've got nothing else to sell. I can't buy any more Bitcoin, and it's frustrating because we just keep dipping lower, and I'm like that buy button is just, it's absolutely calling my name. But hopefully you guys aren't like me. Hopefully you guys got a little bit on the sidelines. You can just keep dumping into Bitcoin as it's diving down. Remember, we're here for the long-term vision, not for number go up. I mean, number go up is nice, but hey, just keep stacking, stay humble, enjoy this while you can, because someday we're going to look back at $80,000 Bitcoin and we're going to be like, man, I miss those days. Anyways, today we're going to be talking with David Garr from Risk Navigator. We're going to be talking with David Garr from Navigator. I said it again, Risk Navigator. No, I'm totally wrong. David, I screwed it up. I'm going to bring you up. It's Navigator Risk, right?
Navigator Risk. You got it.
I totally messed it up. I apologize.
All good.
I'm all over the place today. We just threw everything out the window. It's okay. We're going to be talking with you today about insurance and Bitcoin mining. And, you know, even though I messed up the name of your company, tell us a little bit about what Navigator Risk is doing.
Yes, absolutely. No worries on the name. So Navigator Risk, in the Bitcoin sector, is just helping miners, hosting facilities, and other people in that Bitcoin ecosystem, lower and mitigate the risk that's just inherent in their day-to-day operations. That can be anything from safety manuals to guidance on insurance tailoring, and everything in between. And so we've had a great deal of success in that regard. I've been mining myself since 2020, so coming up on 6 years here, and that's just allowed me to have an understanding of the sector that most people on the risk management side just may not have. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, risk management is not something that people in my niche really think about. We're not thinking about like what could happen. We're just like, hey, let's get these machines plugged in. Let's build out our hash rate. Let's build a heater. Let's throw it in our house. We're not thinking about like what could go wrong and what we should be doing when it comes to like insurance policies or building a strategic like tax plan or anything like that. So I think it's important to have these conversations so that we can kind of explain how it's really not as difficult as some people might think it is, but it's also very necessary to talk about it and to, imagine what could go wrong and prepare for those, worst case possible situations. And so I think it's really important to have you on to discuss this. And then also, as someone, you alluded to it earlier, as someone who's been in the Bitcoin mining scene for 6 years, you have the right mindset to help us figure these problems out. When you're talking with an insurance company, with a risk management company, you want them to understand the asset class that you're working in. You want them to understand the business that you're working in. And so when you're talking with someone who's never mined Bitcoin before, they don't understand data centers, they don't know how to build these things out. It can get very convoluted very quickly. So I think that, when we met down in Houston, Dallas for the first time, I thought we'd met in Nashville, but I guess I was wrong. It's whatever. Either way.
No, you're right, Dallas.
And you told me what you were doing. And I said, man, this is a perfect opportunity to talk about insurance. And I know, guys, it's boring. It can get really like in depth at times. So we're going to try to keep it light. We're going to try to keep it fun. And we're going to talk mainly about David's mining operations and what he's been doing in the space. But before we get into that, before we get into the insurance, before we talk about strategies, can you just tell us your background? Well, I mean, you gave us a little bit of your background, but tell us your mining or your Orangeville story.
Yeah. So, I'm a little embarrassed to say, but when Bitcoin, was first coming on the scene, I was working in the financial world. I was trading futures and commodities. And Bitcoin, we would actually joke about it. My buddies and I would leave the office, walk down to grab a bite for lunch, and we'd joke with each other. Let's go buy some lunch with Bitcoin, and laugh it off. And now look where we are today. So at first I did not take it as seriously as I should have, but that quickly turned. And I started, dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin as I could. Then a few years, went by. I was just investing, keeping my eye on it, dipping my toes into other cryptocurrencies, but Bitcoin obviously still the main driver, of my portfolio. And a friend, came to me, and this was again back in 2020, again in the financial world, and he just had an understanding of the mining world and how to get into it that I didn't have. So I was lucky enough to be introduced to it by someone who had experience and had been mining. And I got the itch right away, just understanding that I could have this machine on at all times, and earning money was an amazing idea to me, and something that I had to get behind. Obviously, securing the blockchain and everything else that goes into that was really something that I was into as well. But I jumped on it real quick once I was introduced to it, and knew there was a path forward.
Yeah, so you have a background in construction and real estate. Is this a background like physically building out the real estate, or more on the risk mitigation side?
All on the risk mitigation side,
Okay.
for sure.
So how did this, like, you built your own Bitcoin mining operation, but you'd had this background in construction real estate risk management. How did that play into you, like, decide, like, making this decision?
Yeah, well, it helped, dealing with construction and real estate. It helped us when we were looking to build out the site. I've actually got machines at two places, but the original spot, not far from where I live, when we were building that out and just dealing with the builder's risk that goes into the construction that's at the site, it was definitely helpful to just have an understanding of what to look for, when contractors were on the site, things that, could get us into hot water from like a risk standpoint, and being able to avoid those. So yeah, definitely the risk mitigation and in the construction and real estate world definitely helped us when it was, time to set up.
Yeah, absolutely. I can only imagine that, like, when you actually trying to build out your operation, having this background and kind of understanding. I mean, you're on the risk mitigation side, but you've also have the contacts in the construction industry that can kind of help you. I mean, a data center is a little bit different than building, real estate, but it kind of falls into a similar situation. I mean, obviously you need a lot more power. You need to work on those kinks, but I feel like having this experience, having these connections probably helped you, going into building your first mining operation.
100%, 100%. It was good to have that experience in the round, and the contact that my friend had put me in touch with, and just that bevy of knowledge
Mm-hmm.
to lean on someone, um, was really a great thing. And that's kind of what I try to be for other miners and hosting facilities now. I've been lucky enough to make enough money in my life where my sole goal and vision is not to just go and hunt down every cent that's out there. I really, take pride and joy in being a resource to the Bitcoin mining sector.
That's the mark of a true Bitcoiner right there, David, is just, like, you have enough. And when you get to that point in your life, and you see this a lot with people who are financially secure, they want to start helping other people. And they've always wanted to help people, and they just, couldn't really divide their time in the right way. But I really love the Bitcoin industry, because you have so many people who they've hit that point, maybe through saving in Bitcoin, maybe through their jobs, like whatever it is, but they've hit that point and now they're just focused completely on education, on community
Yeah.
building, on trying to help people, also get to that point where they don't have to worry about financial
Yeah.
motives.
You're 100% right. And it's nice to see. And, getting out to all of these events, the Bitcoin conference, Mining Disrupt, and everything in between, you really do come across a lot of those types of people, where you can just tell that like they have a genuine interest in helping you or being helped by you. And I just love that communal and community atmosphere that the Bitcoin world brings. It's just a different animal.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you, man. So tell us about like the first mining operation that you built, and like why would you take this on? I mean, anybody who knows about Bitcoin mining knows that this is a difficult game to get into, and anybody who does it is, has a certain personality type. So tell us explain the situation. Why'd you decide to get into it?
Yeah. Again, obviously, it's just an attractive investment opportunity. And I was just personally interested in mining and learning more about it and securing the blockchain and how the hash rate plays into everything and power dynamics. So, when we were building out, it's not a containerized setup. We're in a structured facility. Um, we went in there. This is in upstate New York using renewable energy. And it was just quite the undertaking,
I can imagine.
to go from not having any experience in that sector to having boots on the ground and, okay, how are we going to get this facility up? We've got a certain megawatt worth of power available. How are we going to turn this into a profitable and safe and low risk business?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I have to give credit to my friend that got me in here, because I really was like a deer in the headlights at that point.
Yeah.
Obviously the construction and the real estate background helped when it came to building out. But it was there were definitely some growing pains there for sure.
Let's talk about some of those growing pains. Like what are some of the biggest takeaways that you have from that first experience building a mining operation?
Yeah, I mean, one is, don't just trust anyone that says that they can do something for you or that they've done it before. I really, really preach doing your due diligence. And I'm sure, that this isn't news to anybody that's listening to this, but I can't, express more greatly how important it is to obviously be doing business with people who can actually follow through on what they say they can,
Mm-hmm.
and have done it before and can show you. We ran into a couple hiccups there, even with electricians getting things set up, and they didn't understand really what the issue was. So we had a few hiccups there for sure.
Yeah, electricity, man. This is something that like you think that it makes sense, and then you start trying to play with it, and you're like, oh crap, I don't know what I'm doing. And even electricians, like you could be a I don't know what stage it is, but like a tier one,
Master
a
electrician.
master electrician, and you start explaining to your master electrician like, hey, I need this and this, like this is what I'm trying to power, and they go like it just goes over their head. They're like,
Yep.
what do you mean? Like, I've never dealt with this before. So
Yep.
that's definitely it's something that I've heard multiple times before, So like once you get a good team though, once you've done it before and you know what to look for, I feel like that kind of like helps set you up for the future and building out more operations. So
Absolutely.
how many operations have you built out now, and what style of cooling solutions are you using? Are you just air cooled? Are you immersion, hydro? What's going on?
Yeah, this is an air cooled setup, and that's the one that we've been running from the get go. I've got, like I said, I've got another site out in Texas, but that's not one that I own. I just have some machines there because the
Okay.
capacity is filled at the one that I'm running and built out. But yeah, just the one site.
Gotcha. What machines are you running? S21s, S19s?
Yeah, so I was obviously running old machines when we started, and it's just gone through the progression of recycling those machines as they
Mm.
become less efficient, and basically inoperable. So we've done a pretty good job of staying on top of that and liquidating machines or recycling them at the right time to then put those funds back into new machines. So we're running all new gen machines, Bitmain. I'm a fan of What's Miner as well. They, from my experience out in Texas, they tend to run a little bit better in that heat. But up here in the northeast where I am, it's less of an issue. So we're running predominantly Bitmain machines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned it, you're running up in Texas at the site at your site. So I'm curious. Have you thought about
Texas,
any
Texas is
Texas?
not my site.
Right, right. I'm talking about the New York site. So, are you thinking about any like heat reuse opportunities that you might have? Is that something that you might have thought about?
Yeah, I mean, we're always looking at things like that. Obviously, the heat reuse is a big one. We have not done anything yet on our end with that, but it's definitely something that we think about. We're always just looking to lower that carbon footprint. So if we can reuse that heat some way to put into a garden. It's or power even somebody's home or something that's nearby. It's something that we do consider.
Yeah. Doesn't New York have like a lot of district heating?
Yes, a
Yeah.
lot, and this is an upstate.
Yeah, I'm curious about that and how, like, is it hydronic boilers? Like, how are they heating the district heating zones? And could you come in as the supplier of that heat versus the burning of the coal or the fire wood or whatever, however type of heat they have. This is a model that's being done up in Norway and Finland, and it's really interesting what Hash Labs is doing. So I'm curious, just what your thoughts are on that. If you've seen any opportunities, if you're looking at anything.
No, I mean, I love it. I mean, I think I don't think I'm at the size where it would make a ton of sense for us to put a lot of resources into it. Although we love the idea, I just don't think that we're quite large enough for the output to be a great asset to someone else. But I could be mistaken.
Yeah, I from what I understand, and I'm not the best guy to answer these questions or talk, really like say what powers what, how much heat you get out. But from what I understand, I mean the compact size of these mining operations, the immersion mining operations, and even some of the hydro situations, like you can get a large density of heat from a small like rack
Yeah,
or tank. So I would imagine that it'd be more of like a modular solution for, let's say you got, one district that needs to be heated and they've got a small pump house or whatever it is. I think that you could probably slap a megawatt in there depending on how much power infrastructure they have and use that heat to kind of heat up the area. I wouldn't know. Again, it's just like a thought process, but I think you would be
yeah.
surprised that it's a lot smaller than you'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I have heard of people, like you said, with a smaller amount of machines being able to help in that way. I just have not. We haven't come across any of those opportunities in our area yet. But
Yeah.
definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it'd be exciting to see if you're able to expand. I know that New York is a hard place with the energy prices and with the regulations and the
Yep.
environment. Like it's not an easy place to mine. So I commend
No.
your efforts up there. I want to shift a little bit. I want to talk about, some risk mitigation as it comes to Bitcoin mining. So let's kind of go over some of the risks that can happen and why it's important to have a good policy and a good strategy when those
Yeah.
risks inevitably happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that we get asked about most is, third party liability. So let's say you're a host, and you've got contractors coming and going from the site, performing whatever work they're doing. You may have an investor come visit. They want to be protected from, third party suits. Somebody trips and falls, breaks an ankle, a contractor, or even an employee of the company is putting machines on a rack, and the machine falls off and breaks their foot. It's a very baseline coverage, usually isn't that expensive, and can keep you out of a lot of hot water. Again, from third party liability. So that would be, one of the main focuses I would have if I was operating a site, is to get a general liability product in place to keep us protected from that. Some of the other risks to consider, and what we're seeing a fair amount of losses occur from is power surges at the site. And this is, sometimes the transformers can be right on site, or sometimes the transformer could be 2 miles down the road. But what we've seen a lot is when these power surges happen, if people don't have the right, the breakers and power surge protection in place, that this will fry a lot of their machines. Now, what we offer is a coverage called EDP, electronic data processing. And within that coverage, it will actually protect the client and their machines from those types of power surges. So, this happened to my guy just a couple of weeks ago. Power surge came in, fried the breakers, fried about 100 machines. And he came to us with the claim and, all the evidence of what had happened. And that claim was paid out in less than 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really one of the main drivers that I've seen is that power surge issue. People, may not think about it all the time because they just think that the breakers are in place, or some other risk mitigation tool is in place. But even those don't work 100% of the times, and things get through. So that's one of the main risks that, I would be aware of as both a miner and a hosting facility.
Yeah,
Um,
I have an interesting story. So, I have a friend who, he runs multiple sites. He's got, over 50 megawatts spread out all over the place. And he had a building that there was a megawatt in there, over $1 million worth of investment into this building. And he had a breaker that, it was up to spec. It was, to code. The electricians and everybody, steered him in this direction to get this specific breaker, and it did not trip when it was supposed to. And what ended up happening is the power surged or whatever, and it burned up the entire building. I mean, $1 million just went down the drain. And unfortunately, he did not have a risk mitigation policy, a proper insurance policy, and he is now fighting lawsuits. He's trying to fight the distributor of that breaker right now in order to get his investment back, or partial investment back. And
yeah,
that's something that I think of, like, to this day. Ever since I heard that story, even though I'm a small guy, I'm like, what can I be doing to really secure myself in case, like, something that I put in here based on the specs and everything that I've read and the 80/20 rule, what happens if something blows and, things burn up?
yeah, yeah. It's real, man. It happens. It is for sure. It's out there. It's happening quite a bit. A lot of times, what can happen too is it may not even come straight from the transformer. I've got guys out in New Mexico where their containers of the building will get struck with lightning,
Oh
and
my
that
gosh.
causes that causes the surge and will fry not only some of the machines, but actual components within the container. So it can be a really, really big problem. And like somebody at a megawatt size, especially, you know, having that coverage in place, in my opinion, is well worth, you know, the policy cost.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you guys providing the actual policies, or are you like helping people find the policies?
Yeah, so we don't sell the insurance directly. I'm not an insurance salesman. As we discussed, you know, I'm a third party risk manager.
Yeah.
My job is to help miners and hosting facilities tailor these policies, and we have a network of brokers that we work with in order to get that underwritten.
And are you like helping to educate your brokers so that they understand what the asset is that they're dealing with?
That's exactly right. And to take it even a step further, we're educating the carriers, and have been, you know, for years, talking with them about losses and risks and, you know, what we're seeing in the market. You know, and now, you know, a lot of these carriers have been doing it for, you know, half a decade now. So that they're getting caught up, but there's still, you know, a lot of value to working with someone, to your earlier point. You know, having someone that can clearly and concisely present your account is probably the most important thing in terms of finding the most comprehensive and cost-effective coverage. I can't tell you how many people I've come across and how many clients I've got because of the lack of that understanding. In some other brokers, they'll put a policy in place. They'll have it labeled as, you know, a simple data center. And when a loss comes, then the carrier, you go to the carrier and you say, "Can you help me replace these machines?" And they say, "Bitcoin mining? What are you talking about? I thought you were, you know, just a standard data center." Um, it's a problem. One of the largest clients I have came to us through that exact scenario. Um, Surge at the site, fried some of their machines, about 100 of them, and this was years back when machines were, I think they were about $10,000 a piece. These machines, so it was a fair amount of money, and the policy was just not underwritten correctly. And it cost them, you know, a significant amount of money. They came to me. They said, "Dave, here's the policy that we had in place. Why isn't this being covered?" And it was a simple coding issue where they were coded incorrectly, and gave the, you know, the carrier more than enough reason not to cover the claim.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I think that that's really important. Is again going back to like you as the mine operator, as the business owner, you have to do your due diligence and understand that like these carriers may not know exactly what you're doing. And if you don't get that policy underwritten like exactly to the T, like it gives them reason not to pay out. And you know, you know, let's not let's not lie here. Let's be honest. Like insurance policies, insurance like hold or companies are not going to pay out if they don't have to.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Correct. Luckily, we work with some really, really good carriers that I've actually seen them like go out of their way to find a way to, you know, to get a claim covered because it was the right thing to do. So, you know, again, that's another, you know, value of working with the right person, because, you know, those options are not available to everyone.
yeah, I mean it's that's definitely not the norm, Dave. Like it's definitely not the norm. That's not really like you work with Allstate. Allstate is not like I don't even
Good
know if
luck.
Allstate would cover a Bitcoin mining operation.
Good luck. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanna take this conversation in like to like the home miner, the guy, you know, who's using a Bitcoin miner to heat his house or has a small shed in the backyard. Why is it also important for him, for someone like me, to get a good insurance policy through Navigator Risk or, you know, a similar company to protect my investment?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer, you know, is pretty much the same for a small miner and maybe even a larger miner. And it's just the having that that safety net in place for when something goes wrong. And especially if you're operating out of your home, and you may not be, as much of an expert as some of the other hosting facilities that are out there, it leaves a lot of room for things to go wrong. And I've seen it happen. So I believe the value, is real and is there for minors on both ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I from my understanding, these policies, they cover, you can get them to cover damn near everything. And if I'm running a heat source, what happens if, on the off chance something goes wrong and it burns my house down? Like I would really want a policy that covers the house in that aspect.
Yes, yes. So the Bitcoin mining coverage will be specific to the operation and the machines. Now, if the house was actually technically coded to be like a data center, and you wanted to get that underwritten, we could. But your homeowner's insurance, would pick that up if there was a fire, like I think you mentioned heat from a Bitcoin mining operation. The homeowner's insurance would probably come in and pick that up.
Okay, I guess that kind of leads me into this question is, so if I've got homeowners insurance and I'm running a Bitcoin mining operation out of my house, how would I go about explaining to my insurance company that I'm running a Bitcoin miner and this is a possible scenario that could happen, just to protect
Yeah.
myself?
Yeah, no, and in all honesty, sometimes you can't even get underwritten as a home miner. We do it, and we have underwritten cases, but there's much more scrutiny on a home miner, as I'm sure you can understand, in that underwriting process, as opposed to a structured facility that's dedicated to mining. So yeah, definitely something to be aware of.
Yeah, I'm curious about, like, should I go talk to them and be like, hey, I'm doing this thing? Or is it one of those, like when you're talking to a bank, you don't tell the bank that you're mining Bitcoin, you tell them that you've got a data center? Like, is there nuance to this?
So what I would do is, obviously, I'd have a policy in place to cover the actual mining assets that I'm running. But again, if that mining operation was to lead to a fire that ultimately burnt the house down, I mean, I can't say for sure without seeing your homeowner's policy, but most homeowner policies would pick that up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And do you help people, like would I be able to come to you and show you my homeowner's insurance policy and have you help me like navigate that?
100%, 100%. We can help with all lines of insurance, not only Bitcoin mining.
Mhm.
Again, due to the vast broker network that we have, we're able to help people get insurance underwritten in all lines.
And in all 50 states?
Yes, globally.
Oh,
I'm
really?
underwriting people in Addis Ababa right now.
Oh, wow.
I've got people in Paraguay, the UAE, really everywhere.
Yeah. So, what are some, like, as a miner yourself, as somebody who's in the risk navigation space, you've got an extensive, like, education and knowledge on all of these things. What are some of the biggest pieces of advice that you could give our audience?
In terms of mining, or in terms of insurance coverage
I,
and
I
risk
would
management?
say insurance coverage and risk management as it comes to mining.
Yeah, I think, to go back, and I know I said it once already, but I think your point at the beginning of the podcast is probably the most important thing, and that is working with someone who understands the sector very closely,
Mhm.
and can present your case in a very clear and concise manner to the carrier, so that you can get the most comprehensive and cost-effective coverage. I really truly believe that that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I can't imagine that it wouldn't be very helpful to not. It just makes sense. I mean, if you're gonna go through the struggle or through this process, just just find somebody knowledgeable in what you're doing. And it
Yeah.
sounds like Navigator Risk is really helping people, and it should be, to the audience, like this should be your first line, like your first, like have them on speed dial, reach out to Dave, because he's going to really be able to help you navigate. See what I did there? Navigate these waters and make sure that you're running and building your Bitcoin mining operation safely.
100%, 100%. And we really pride ourselves on, offering solutions that are bespoke to the operation, and not just offering cookie cutter solutions to everyone comes our way. We really like to understand the operation in a very detailed manner, so that we can, propose what may be the best coverage. And something I should say is that anybody who may be interested in taking a look at, what coverage may look like for them, we are not high pressure. We're not going to be emailing and calling and all over you. Really, this is to educate and be a resource for people. So if they want to come to us, try to understand, what a policy may look like for general liability, property coverage that I talked about that's specific to the machines, we're more than happy to take in that data, get them a quote, talk it through, and see what's best for them. And, if now is not the right time, in 6-12 months, they want to revisit, we're happy to do that. But really just looking to educate and be a resource for people out there so that they know that there's legitimate coverage for them.
Yeah, we need more of that, David. Like at the end of the day, we're a very new industry. I mean, Bitcoin's been around for 16 years. Bitcoin mining in the aspect that we have today has only been around for like 10. And because it's so new, it's really hard for people to navigate this industry. And so going back to what you said at the beginning, is just having someone to hold your hand is very important. You talk about your friend who helped you get into the mining industry. They helped you understand the nitty gritty, the fine points, and helped you build out this operation that you're running. And the same goes for your insurance policies. The same goes for your taxes. All these things, you don't know what you don't know. And if you just kind of blindly go into it saying, "Oh, I'll figure it out," I think you're going to have a harder time than just, trying to find the right people to connect you and make things happen.
That's right. That's right. And one of the other things that I think is really uh, important, and the reason why we've had so much success is just asking the right questions, and knowing what risks are out there and what are some of the concerns of our other clientele, so that we can preemptively bring those up to the client, which cuts down on back and forth between the client and the carrier and getting everything underwritten, and just makes it a much more seamless process. And like you were saying, a lot of people, it's not the most interesting topic or the most fun thing to deal with, insurance. So that we really, really like to come in and take that pressure off the client, make it as easy and seamless as a process as possible.
Look, David, I don't care how boring it is. At the end of the day, you're putting money into an asset. You're building out this business, quote unquote, like whether you're a small guy or not, like you want to protect it. And you're gonna kick yourself in the ass a million times at 7 ways to Sunday if you don't have this in place and something goes wrong. And you're gonna be looking back like, oh man, I wish I would have taken David's advice, and I wish I would have
Yeah.
done my due diligence, because otherwise you're going to lose a lot of money.
Yeah, and it's tough. I've had to deal with that. I've dealt with personal friends of mine that were slow to move on that, and it cost them. So I've seen it happen firsthand. It's really tough to get a call from that person, saying, "Oh man, I wish we had put this in place." Um, so that's really what I try to stress is, if you're really taking this seriously, and these assets are something that, like, are meaningful to you, and it's really something that should be considered in your risk management portfolio.
I couldn't agree more, man. Well, tell me, David, what does Bitcoin mean to you?
Bitcoin to me is freedom, I guess I would say. It's really changing a lot of things, helping a lot of people in tough parts of the world. So I see it as a tool to make people's lives better.
Yeah, that's a great answer. What do you think about the current price action right now?
I'm not too happy with it, but I do like the opportunity to buy the dip, like you said. So to me, these short term swings, they don't really mean anything to me. I'm holding Bitcoin; it's not going anywhere. I believe that the value will continue to
Yeah.
increase significantly. I'm in it for the long term. I'm holding.
Yeah, I always like whenever the price dips and I don't have capital on the sidelines to dump into it, I'm always just like, ugh. But then I was listening to a podcast this morning and I'm forgetting the name of the show, but one thing they were talking about, they were discussing, when Bitcoin hits $1 million, like when we're at 10% of the monetary global supply or whatever, 98,000, 80,000, 120,000. It's not going to matter. They're all going to
No.
be the same. It's almost like looking back and like, oh, did you get it 17? Did you get it 25? Did you get
Yep.
it 20? It's all the same at that point.
Yep.
So,
100%.
looking out to the long run, like Bitcoin, we know Bitcoin's going to the moon right now with Bitcoin dumping and taking these swings and like price consolidating. I think it's a great opportunity to buy. I'm always like I literally I have notifications on my app as soon as Bitcoin dips like 5, 7, 10%. I'm like, do I have anything? Can I buy? I got $10. Let's throw that in there.
Let's go.
Let's
Yep.
do it. But it's just having that long term vision and knowing what you're doing. Who is it that says time in the market beats timing the market? And
Correct.
oh, my light just changed on me. But at the end of the day, compounding is super important. So just don't pay attention to the short term price volatility. Just pay attention to your vision for the long term. That's all I got to say.
100%. Yeah, like obviously we're not giving financial advice here, but
No.
if you're a believer in Bitcoin, what I do is I just dollar cost average, into it. So I've got a scheduled buy every 2 weeks for a certain amount of Bitcoin. And if anybody out there is listening and thinking about it, think it's a great strategy. You do what you can afford, whether it's $10 every 2 weeks or 1,000.
Mhm.
If you're a believer in it, I think it's something to consider for sure.
I have a perfect story about this. Dollar cost averaging is one of the best strategies. So I have an uncle, and I've been telling my uncle to buy Bitcoin for the last 2.5 years, David. Okay, for 2.5 years, I've been like, Bo, you need to buy this. Like, get in. Like now's the best time. Right now, like tomorrow's the second best time to get in. And he finally listened to me. I want to say about two months ago when we were at about 100K, just under, so 98K, and this guy, and I've been telling him dollar cost average, by a little bit, like time over time and whatnot. And he, watching the news, looking at the FUD, thinking, oh, Bitcoin's going to just skyrocket. Trump's coming in. Like it's going to
Yep.
be a great time. He dumped a significant amount of money, a non insignificant amount of money into Bitcoin. And he calls me 3 days after his buy because Bitcoin had gone from 98 to like 93. And he is freaking out. Like he is just absolutely freaking out. And I'm like, Bo, chill. First off, chill. You're not going
Yeah.
to get a return on your investment in 3 days. Like,
And
just
not to mention, I've been telling you about this for quite some time now.
2 years, 2.5 years, I've been telling you to do this. And also, why would you just dump a ton of money into it? If you've got that money, just like drip feed it in there, man. Just drip feed it. He's like, I thought it was going up. And I'm like, and you thought wrong. You can't you can't time the markets, guys. Like at the end of the day, like there's even good traders cannot time the market
You
because
can't.
the
It can't
market.
be done.
No. I can't tell you what Bitcoin's going to be tomorrow. I can tell you that Bitcoin's going up, but I can't tell you the time frame of when it's going up. And that's why you should never trade. And again, this is not financial advice. This is just a personal story of why dollar cost averaging is a better strategy than lump sum investing.
100%. 100%.
All
That's
right,
a funny
David.
story.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. And I'm going to hold it over him for a good amount of time.
I bet.
I will. So, well, David, I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. I'm going to point people to Navigator Risk in the show notes so that they can get a hold of you. Is there any other place where the audience can reach you?
Yeah, no, just an email or a phone call is probably the best place to reach us. So yeah, would be happy to help anybody that wants to take a look. And again, no pressure to bind anything. If you just want to take a look and get an understanding of what policy may look like for you, we're happy to do it. If it's right for you, all good. We'll help you get it in place. If it's something to think about down the road, that's fine with us as well.
Awesome. Well, David, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for what you're doing. And you might be getting a phone call from me here pretty soon.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Trev. Thanks for having me on. I really, really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care, brother.